Well, welcome to Productivity to Profit. And today my guest is Deborah LeeAnn Morley, and I'm so excited to have you here.
Thanks. It's a pleasure to be with you, Kathy.
Well, great. So why don't you tell the audience a little bit about you and what you're currently doing?
Let's see. So I am a leadership trainer and a speaker and a paradigm shifter. And I work primarily with women who are at the edge of their expansion. And they know that to be more effective as leaders, they need to change. And they can't quite put their finger on what that might be. So I work with a variety of different modalities, but one of them is to use a Leadership Circle 360 tool. And it measures where are you brilliant and where do you get in your own way. And then we actually, through a variety of group processes in person, some of them are in retreats, some of them are just in trainings, and one-on-one coaching, we work together for about a year to do that. I call it the heroine's journey from working from the places that are holding us stuck and back from our effectiveness up through into our creative competencies so we can be more effective and create the change that we're here to do.
Awesome. Well, I love the idea that you're a paradigm shifter. That's really cool. So, and of course, working with women, I definitely love working with women, and I just feel like women have so much power, and sometimes they just don't allow themselves to really shine the way they can.
Absolutely.
So, let's talk about, when I know a lot of your stuff is around authenticity and really showing people who we truly are. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Oh, that is it's part of my story. But authenticity was, to me, a kind of a foreign concept. I thought I had to be what others expected me to be, or what my job description said, or I needed to change and be what those expectations that others gave me, versus what's true for me. And many times it's kind of pushed out of us as little girls to be true to ourselves. We kind of lose that when we're about that 9 or 10-year-old age, where we try to fit in and be what everybody wants us to be, and how can I be helpful and sweet and kind, and I want to belong, and I want you to love me. All of these things keep us with a very external focus versus really knowing, who am I, what's true for me, and what is it that I'm here to do and be in the world. So that's why it's called a heroine's journey for me, because it's not for the faint of heart. I think that many times we have to do some deep soul searching and really get to know this person, and what do I want, and what turns me on, what gets me excited, not what my parents wanted me to do, but what do I enjoy doing, and where are my gifts? And then really, like you use the word shine, that's one of my words as well. We're not as effective if we're not doing what brings us pleasure, what we're passionate about, and also what we are here to do in terms of our purpose. And I find that finding that intersection is key to our inner alignment for authenticity.
Right. I have to agree with you so much, because I know as a little girl growing up, it's always, I want to be, I always felt like I had to be perfect. I always felt like I had to do, I didn't want to, make any waves, and through my process of coaching over the years, I've realized, when I've looked at as you know, I call myself a reforming workaholic. I realized, that I brought that into my adulthood with trying to be the best employee, trying to be, always being, what I thought, and it really was my idea, what I thought everybody thought I should be. And that, that I can see where it was really destroying what I was doing and my health at the time.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then, just this last year, I realized, with the death of my husband, that I realized, I was a mother, I was a wife, but most important, I was, Richard was my world, right? So it was really, he was my world, and everything I did revolved around him, which is, I don't regret any part of it because he was the love of my life. But now I have to find myself. And even though I've always been very good about, once I realized about the authentic and being authentic, and it was easier when I was authentic, it was easier for me to do what I needed to do. I really realized there was a whole nother part of me this past year. And my word for the year was Kathy, so being this is the year of Kathy, and being creating a new process in my business, and every word stood for another, each one of the letters in my name, and it's really been an interesting year.
That is so exciting to hear. And the other piece around authenticity is we typically don't get there until something tragic happens. For one of my girlfriends, it was a really bad car accident. Another was cancer. Another one, we've had to lose people that we love.
Mm-hmm.
And what if we could get to that place of inner alignment, inner awareness, inner courage to be the authentic self that we're here to be without going through tragic life events, and I think that now that we're in this place, how can we support younger women coming through that process? And I know you do that in your work, and it's powerful to see things from such a different place where, oh my gosh, I can have my heart and my soul and my intellect and my body fully going in the same direction. That's, it's a whole new world, and it's a much more easy place to live from. You use that word. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is so important that we do. And I know I want to kind of, before it slips my mind, I know you talk about leadership from the inside out. So I'm sure that has to do with the authenticity. Is there anything else there, that you want to talk about regarding that, leading from the inside out?
Yes, it's almost like if you can imagine having something on the tip of your nose. Now, we have a camera on us right now, so we could see it. But when we're in front of other people, whether we're speaking or leading or running a meeting, doesn't matter. Everyone else can see what's going on with us, even when we try to hide it, especially when we try to hide it. So the work that I tend to do with women is, how do I get to a place of acceptance, and not just acceptance, but really self-compassion for those ugly bits, for the stuff that we never want other people to know about it, because they're going to see it anyway. It comes out of us in just how we operate when we're trying really hard to hide those things. Like, I don't want you to see that I'm this, that, and the other. Everybody else is going, we all see it. It's like when someone's nervous on stage, we're all like, oh my God, they're so nervous. And they're trying to be like, oh, I'm fine, and so I think we women try to play that, I'm okay, I've got this, I'm strong, and everybody else is like, no, she's insecure as anything. Look at that. Because it's coming out not just in the words, but in their body language, in the energy that they're giving off. And the other piece is then we affect those people. So if we're wanting to exude confidence, that has to be an inner alignment thing. And then we're giving ourselves permission to be everything we are: warts, wrinkles, gray hair, everything that we are. And that gives permission to those that we're working with to say, oh, it's okay for me not to be perfect. She's not perfect, and she's owning it. So that allows me to step in and feel connected, and to trust her, and to want to work with her. So there's so many inner pieces that can't be done from outside. And it's each individual journey of coming to peace, coming to at least acceptance, and then to self-compassion, and then complete peace and ownership of, yeah, I've got these moments when my perfectionist is flaming and I am critical and I do these things. And then I realize, step back. I just want things to be perfect because I love beauty. I love excellence. I love it when things flow. So somewhere in there, I'm overusing that strength, that character trait of mine, and it comes out sideways. So as soon as I hear myself now going, whether it's an inner critic or an external critic, I'm like, ooh, where am I out of alignment? And then I can kind of shift back into that space. So that's what I work with women on.
Awesome. Well, I remember I guess when I first started speaking and doing trainings and things like that, I had asked my daughter if she wanted to attend one because she had never seen me speak before. And, so we went through the whole session, and it was a couple of days later, and I said, Saturday, I said, okay, I want to know what you thought. I said, and I want the good and the bad and the ugly, whatever, I just really want to know what you thought about the program. And she said, Mom, she said, you did a good job. She said, but you know what? When you were talking to people to one, she goes, you were in your own element, and that was, I think, the realization for me that it's not about trying to deliver somebody else's stuff or trying to follow the way somebody else told me taught me to do something. It's about following what was in my heart. And, when I was one-on-one, and it was just having a conversation and helping somebody with an issue, that I realized. And that's, I think, was my big awakening on being really authentic and how it made a difference in the way I was.
Yeah. Great feedback, by the way. Smart daughter of yours.
Yeah, yes, she is. Yes, she is. So, so where do we begin when we think about, okay, I really want to do is there any steps involved in that we can share with someone on how they can just start being more aware of what they're doing and what their presence is?
Yes. And thank you for bringing up the word presence, because that's one of my favorite directions to work with women on is their presence. And part of it is we can't force it. And I think as really smart women, we try to push out what we most want others to see or hear or know about us. And what it's taken me decades, especially the last 10, I've been focusing on this, is to learn is how to be that from the inside. So if I want, for example, if I want to be confident, where can I find confidence in my body? One of the things I love to do is an example of when we say our names. Hi, I'm Deborah LeeAnn, right? And you say, hi, I'm Kathy. It's true. It's who we are, and it doesn't have any wonkiness. However, when we say, hi, I'm Deborah LeeAnn, and I want to talk to you about this $10,000 a year program, and then all of a sudden my eye, it's really noticing, where does my energy shift? What happens in my body? And learning how to stay in me and not jumping over into your energy to help you manage how I'm delivering this message. Many women spend the majority of their life, if not all of it, outside of their bodies, worrying about how you're going to feel. How are the others that are going to watch this feel about what I'm saying? If I talk about the amount of money of my programs, how are they going to feel? What if they can't afford it? That is not our problem. It is our problem eventually, but it's not the reason what we're doing is valuable. Where we need to come back in is like, I own that I have amazing gifts to share. I own that this work is needed in the world. I am confident and capable in that, in delivering that work. And I know I've seen the changes so many times that my work is valuable. So then when I share my work, it's not for everybody. And if you're interested, connect with me. It's a whole different way of connecting versus I just have to get the words out and tell her what my program is and tell her how much it costs. And, all of that external focus on how the person's going to receive it doesn't serve us. So if there's a way to flip it, it's start noticing, where am I in the message? Because I am the message. And how I'm talking, if I can lower my voice, let's just do this real quick. I'm going to ask you to do a grounding example with me so that people can see it, because I can feel myself getting out of alignment.
Okay.
So will you follow along with me?
Sure.
Okay. So what we want to do is just take everything out of our hands and put them in our lap. And we're going to take a few breaths together, in through the nose and out through the mouth. And we'll do another one. And as we sigh, if we make an audible sound, it actually activates the nerve that connects our head all the way down our spine. So what a beautiful way to connect our intellect and our body and our heart and our spirit by getting that whole electrical system in alignment, right? So when we breathe together, that allows us to get online. It's like basically creating the Zoom connection so we can connect. So we get that. Then we notice our body. We notice the lower half. Notice if you can feel your feet and allow them to get really heavy. And then notice where your body meets the chair and allow it to be supported there. So we're getting really low and down in our body. And then we're at the same time lengthening so that our whole spine is stretched, not stretched like we're pulling, but just open so that there's space between the vertebrae. That allows for us to have space for us to connect. It allows for us to have space to get inspirational downloads. It allows for us to have space for our body to breathe and process. So it's that spatial awareness, and it's also being both physical and connected to our source at the same time, because we're human. So we're just going to take another deep breath into this space, and we're going to do an audible sigh this time. Yeah. And just by doing 3 of those breaths, we're actually activating a chemical called the oxytocin chemical, which you may know from it's the connecting chemical. We get it when we're hugging another. We get it when we breastfeed our children. We get it turned on when we're in an orgasm. I mean, it's like all of these weird ways of connecting, but we can do it at any time on our own with 3 of those activating breaths. And when we do that, we're in alignment because we're in our bodies. Our mind is open, our heart is open, and we're connected to however you want to call your higher power. And that's a very powerful place to operate. So doing this several times a day, just, oh yeah, I wasn't breathing. I just noticed that, or, oh yeah, wow, I'm not sitting up straight. My energy is constricted. How can I be open? Because this is where, if we're open, we know how the universe gives to us, right? We tend to be closed off, and then nothing good, not nothing good, but a lot less can happen. And it's a lot more energy that we're expending.
Well, we're really holding ourselves in at that point, right?
Absolutely. Yes. And it's such a beautiful awareness, because that's what happens. We shut down on some way. And everybody does it for different reasons. We're either trying to control the situation, like I'm not going to let you take any control over me, or we protect, like distance, shut down the heart, not open for business, or we lose ourselves and kind of escape and go over with wherever anybody wants us to be, with people pleasing and trying hard to belong. And not wanting to rock the boat. So I'm not going to tell you how I really feel. So everybody has a different major operate. Some of us do all three, but our getting to be that awareness of, oh, I see it, I'm distancing. Oh, I see it, I'm getting critical. Oh, I see it, I'm losing myself here. Come back in. Here I am. And then I'm back available to talk from this place.
Great. Something as you were talking about that and a little bit earlier, something that came to mind, and it's about when I probably learned to not have expectations of other people. And when I was going through that, and the self-growth on that whole thing, that was really about me, about me taking care of me, and then how they reacted was their reaction, and it really had nothing to do with me. I also then noticed when people would be upset about something, it was usually because it was something that they were insecure about.
Right.
And so can you talk about a little about that at all?
Yes, I love that. And then what immediately came to mind was giving them the space and grace to be with whatever it is that's going on for them. And what I'm learning as a coach and as a trainer is when I start feeling some of that going on in me, typically there's others in the room that are also feeling that, because we share emotional energy in that way. So if somebody comes in and they're feeling this, or you just said some information and they're going through, a great way would be to say, wow, I'm starting to feel my insecurities come up, and I'm just curious, what's going on with you? Can I listen? I'm here if you want to share. So there's this relationship between us that a lot of times we'll feel what the other person's feeling, and we need to check in and go, is this mine? No, I don't think so. I think that could be the other person's. And I think for many of us, we have been so trained to be empathetic to the point of we don't even know what's ours and what's not.
I think that's an excellent point. That makes a whole lot of sense.
Does that answer your question though?
Yeah, I think it does. It's just, I just, through my awareness and my personal growth, it just, came very aware. And that was when I was able to say, hey, that really isn't directed to me. It was really awareness for me that is an, insecurity or an issue for them.
And they could be going through something like that just horrible happened that morning, that has activated some of their fears, grief, whatever's going. And so very often you're right. We take it personally, and it may have nothing to do with us. Now we could have spurred it. I mean, because we can trigger each other, but very often it's not really about me at that moment. It's something else going on. And it's a perfect opportunity, if you're sensing it, to just say, ooh, I just noticed your face kind of you look sad. Is there something going on? You don't have to share, but I'm giving you I have some time now if you want to talk about it. It's very nice to be asked. And it's also nice to know that people feel us, that they get us, and that we don't have to be on all the time. Everything's fabulous, because that's not true. And I have kind of a little love-hate relationship with the positivity movement, because you can't be positive all the time. We don't expect the sun to shine all the time. If it did, we probably wouldn't have nearly the
enjoy it quite as much.
I do like it today.
I know.
But and the nights are longer now, which makes it even harder. But
right.
But there is a time for spring and summer and winter and fall. There's a time for day and night. There's a time when we can't act like everything's fabulous, because it's not in that moment. And what happens as women is we try to squish that down and put it away. And we're like, when I have time, I'll process that grief. Well, then it comes out inappropriately all other ways. Right. It's not designed. Emotions are not to be boxed. they are going to wind their way through in other ways, you know?
Right. And I think it's so, I know from my own personal experience with, when my daughter had gotten so sick and then through my husband that, just being with it, just being with it when it comes and okay, if, that's meant for me today, then that's where I'll be. And it doesn't mean that I have to push through it and I have to, set it aside so that I can get work done or whatever. It's really, it's about, taking today and making the most of it and dealing with what's going on.
Oh, and Kathy, that's so important. Do you know how many people don't do that? We don't take the time to listen to what's going on within. And that's that huge part of embodiment is the final frontier for us as women. Because we've got the other pieces. We're spiritual, we're intellectual, we're emotionally intelligent. Got all of that. But the final is how can we be really tapping into the wisdom of our bodies. And sometimes we're just exhausted and we need to just stop. It's our bodies saying, stop. We need to process something. I'll be back online tomorrow. But the sooner that we address it, the better. And I know too many people that are like popping Sudafed and got to push through. And, and I was one of those. And I have to tell you, it's a pretty ugly way to be. And then when I would get sick, I'd be sick for 6 or 7 days in a straight. I couldn't get over it quickly because I would push it off and push it off and push it off till like the holidays, like Christmas. And then I would be, I knew that it was a safe time, because my business was closed. So.
Right. So yeah, that definitely, I know we've all done that, all been there. And, and I think, it was a real relief for me to learn that. It really was, it really, the last 2 years have been, so much easier than I know it would have been if I wouldn't have allowed myself to go through what I need to go through. So let's talk about self-confidence and, and what are the things that help us build that self-confidence in ourselves?
One of my favorite tools, there's a couple, are assessments, because it allows us to really learn where are we already brilliant. And for many of us, if you do Strengths Finder or the Leadership Circle 360 profile, there's always a few of those that we just can't own, that others see in us and we just don't, we have a problem with it. So the big thing for me is to name what it is that I'm already brilliant at. And then claim them, really own them. And you have to do this with your less than stellar strengths or overused strengths or shadows, or I call them reactive tendencies. Those things that, like when you're quick to anger or quick to, check out or quick to just smile and say everything's okay, whatever your go-to is, those reactive tendencies that kind of take over even when we know better that that's not the way to be, those are important to be aware of. And then that awareness, or naming them, supports you in being better able to own them. And then you can go, oh, so now I can aim them. How can I use this in service to where I'm going with my business, with my life, with my leadership? And each of those pieces allows us to grow step more fully into our wholeness, right? Into all of us, because we tend to be operating from like a part of us, talking heads, or just a big open heart walking around, or, or some beautiful, those people that are kind of so angelic and so tied to the spirit world that they can't like operate down here on the planet. They're not grounded. So when you get all of those pieces online in terms of owning all of that, and it's not easy to do on your own. This is where a coach comes into play. And you helped me see blind spots around things when you coached me. So this is the kind of place where working with others on a team or in a small group or in a cohort, as well as a coach, allows you to get to a place of, oh, I can show you this ugly thing about me, and you're still going to love me, care for me, want to work with me. And so then there's this place of acceptance and self-compassion. So it's kind of a process, which is why I call it the heroine's journey. And there's some dragons you have to slay along the way and some demons. But there's also like, I think of that as a very masculine version of slaying the demons. I feel like for women, it's we befriend them, right? Where you're like, oh yeah, I don't want you to go away, that part of me. I want to love on you because that's all that part of us needs. And very often it was a coping mechanism we learned really young. It kept us safe. It kept us, playing the peacemaker or running from something that was unsafe or fighting back. Each of those ways was a way of us to cope with what was going on as children. And the problem is they don't really serve us anymore. We've outgrown them. So it's a way of, oh yeah, that's just that younger part of me trying to have a say. Well, I have a choice now, and I'm driving the car, this 60-something-year-old woman versus that 10-year-old girl. So I get to say, we're going in this direction. And there's something about owning all of that ownership that translates into a confidence, translates into an authentic presence, because we are all of who we are. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And it really is. It's so important that we, realize, and I love the idea that you said that, about having somebody else see, because we don't see it all. We don't see everything, and having somebody else see something inside of us or about us or whatever to help us to be more aware I think is huge.
Yeah, I call it like a mirror. We
right.
we don't very often, we normally rely on a mirror to do what we need to do before we go out the door, right? But
right.
But when it comes to this, we're like, oh no, I don't need anybody to do this. And yet we are tricky. If we're smart, we have gotten so many ways of hiding these things from ourselves that it's really hard for us to see. So,
right. Yeah. So is there anything along this topic that we're talking about that you'd like to share? Because I like to kind of shift more onto the business owner side and just ask you some questions about running your business. So is there anything else you want to share before we shift there?
I'd say go, because it'll probably come out during the business side as well.
Okay. So what is one thing that, when you decided to start your business, or, I know you've redesigned your business and, yourself in the last few years. And, so what is the one thing that you say, boy, I wish I'd known?
Oh, there's two things, but I think they go hand in hand. I just went through a business model intensive with a business coach. And it was fascinating to me to see that just because I know I can do this stuff and I can put this stuff out there and people are buying this, that's not the model for my business. So creating a business model, which I'm going to finalize with my team tomorrow, is really important. Even knowing that we're starting with just this portion of the model, this leg of it, but that we can see that we can see a growth. It helps us with our vision. It helps us with our planning. It's to me, it allows me to see how the pieces are all fitting into a grander plan down the road. That, and the second one is I would start off with a really beautiful, you're going to laugh, accounting system. A system that allows, I know, I'm a big believer, Kathy, I've been telling everybody about you, that allows us to start from the very get-go appreciate where the money's coming in and where it's going. I was just kind of like being, putting Band-Aids on and like moving things around to fix and pay the bills. And I wish I would have started working with you 5 years ago. So I would be in a completely different place today. So there's those two things. Does that make sense? Having a
Oh
business
yeah.
model as well as having a really, at least simple in the beginning, bookkeeping system that can be expanded as business grows.
Yes, definitely. And it definitely does make sense. And so is there something that either that you've struggled with, or has been a big challenge in running a business that you have found a way to turn it around for you? Because trying to run a business, I mean, there's so many things where we tend to have to work by ourselves when we might be more people, love that interaction with people, or just the whole time management of working on your own and owning your. Is there been any challenge, and then how have you been able to overcome that?
I think I'm in the process of overcoming. I'm always a work in process. I'd say that there were a couple of them. I love working on my own, and I do really, really good work on my own. And to the point that to the overuse of that means I don't ask for help, and I can work myself to the bone and get exhausted. So because I love what I do, I used to put in, I don't know, and then working from home means that I can do laundry and then go do some more work and then go make dinner and then come back and work. And I just didn't really have very good boundaries to the detriment of relationships and my health. So there's a real healthy balance that needs to be struck on time and energy, and making sure that we're paying attention to our health, which is also a business strategy, taking care of our health and wellness, as well as our relationships, as well as our business, so that we're kind of covering all the bases. So that was a big one that it took me a long time to learn. And then knowing when to ask for help, and then allowing them to help me because I do it better than anybody. So, there's my perfectionist. I can just show you. And then, so what happens is then people don't want to help me because I expect more than they can't do it exactly the same way I expect. And I'm critical, and that's not. So I can see that when you start a business, there's this ownership that's like, this is mine. It's my baby. And I remember early on having some wise advice from an older gentleman who had great grandchildren at the time, who said, you need to put the kids in bed by 8. So you have a life, you and your husband, you do whatever you want to do. You need to start taking weekends away as a couple to allow the kids to see that you and your relationship is important. That just guidelines around, you don't be with that child 24/7 every single moment, every single day. That's not healthy for them. It's not healthy for me. So same with the business. How can I allow someone else to caretake and give them parts to, trust that they're going to do their part? So does that make sense? Those are hard lessons.
Oh, definitely. And I see it so much with, the people that I serve and that I coach, because exactly what you said, it's our baby. We know it, but, but the interesting thing is when you change and you decide to just say, this is the outcome I want, and everybody be clear on that outcome, and then say, okay, here it is, take it the way you would take it. It is definitely probably not going to be the way I would go or the road I would go down. But, that's when people become creative, and that's when people feel like they're responsible and they take responsibility. And that's when they feel like they're a part of it, because they aren't being, they're entrusted. You're entrusting your baby with them, but as long as they know the outcome, that your vision of that outcome, it makes such a world of difference.
Yeah. And that's what we're doing tomorrow. Actually, I'm doing a vision workshop here with my team, and I've invited a couple of other friends to come so that, because my friends, I also want them to know what I'm about. Plus, I'm practicing this new work that I'm doing with visioning, the vision process. So, so they're going to be my guinea pigs, and we're going to get a chance to really get on the same page of where do I want this business to grow, and what's this new model I'm creating. And so it took me years to get to this place, and I feel like I'm growing up in my business. And partly I want to thank you because of the support around the financial, but that, and there's something about being an adult that I feel like I was scared of stepping into really being this business owner. And so I kind of played and danced around the ownership of my business. And now that I'm seeing the impact of doing what I've been doing for a couple of years now, and having the people come back and want to work with me again and again and again, I'm like, oh my gosh, I got another contract for another whole group from the same, it's like, it's time for me to serve them better by taking care of me and my business. Does that make sense?
Oh, definitely. It definitely does. And it's really interesting that we realize that, that I think as a business owner, and realizing that, we have something to give. So the cat decided to come join us. Yeah. And, and that, and I love that you're including your team in this, mm-hmm. and that you're taking. So one last question around business. So if you were to, we all have challenges, but I've just started this new group on Facebook, and it's called the Stresspreneur. And I know none of us are really stressed, so it's, but
yeah, right.
So what are one or two of the biggest stresses for you as being a business owner?
I think it's, how do I not lose me in the process? Now that I have this relationship with me and the complexity of who I am, how do I bring that forth in service to my clients and it's the same one for me in every relationship, is how do I take care of me and be in service to this relationship? So how do I love without losing myself was a book I read a long time ago, decades ago. It didn't stick until now. Now I'm like, oh, so that's still a stress for me. I noticed when I got back after this weekend retreat, I didn't really want to do anything yesterday. Didn't really want to open my laptop. I didn't want to, and I realized it's probably because I needed a day. I worked all weekend, I worked 8 days straight in preparation for that retreat. And then I just was with those women all the way through yesterday, Sunday afternoon at 4 when I got to the airport. So I needed that time, but I was still in my thing of, I need to get stuff done. I need to finish the invoice. I need to do this. I need to put and I need to plan my week, my normal Monday, my administrivia Monday. And I thought, no, just do the minimum. So I canceled the gym. I rearranged my week so that I could have a day that I was relatively low key, and I got to refuel and rejuvenate so that the rest of the week, which is pretty intense, can get rolling. But if I wouldn't have done that, I would have been a mess. So I still stress on how much I'm supposed to do and how to get it all done versus just knowing and trusting that I've got this and it'll all get done tomorrow. I need a day for me.
Well, I'm really, really proud of you. Really, really proud of you for taking that, because that's one of the things. And I remind, I have well, dear friend, you and I both know Lethea,
Mm.
and I know she wouldn't mind me talking about her, but she did this huge event last month, right? It was a 3-day event. It was wonderful. And then I asked one of her team members, I said, so, what are you going to do for the weekend? She goes, oh, we have a 3-day retreat after this. So all of her team then had a 3-day retreat afterwards. And so I kind of said to her afterwards, I said, I reached out to her. I said, so I waited. I said, so how, she goes, well, I need to, take some time off. I said, and you didn't plan that? Number one, that was probably not the wisest thing to do, but I understood her whole team was in town and all that. But I had to remind her that she needed to set time before the trip and set time after the trip. And I think we all forget to do that. I've gotten really good at it. So when I schedule, when I flew out of town last time, I always, my email responder basically, gives me, says it's going to be the end of the day that I come back. Because if I was in a situation like you and felt like I just couldn't, I didn't want to say I would be there and not be there and not be available.
Right.
So if I do work or feel like I want to work, I can get some stuff done. But it really is, I think, so important as business owners that we take a little bit of time before we leave and make sure that day after we leave is just part of the coming back and regrouping and getting all that, and not a pressure of jumping into work. So.
Yeah, we used to call it a travel day, and I'm learning to do that on the where I travel the day before, so I can get there, get set up, get into the space, get all the travel done, all the stress of the travel, versus trying to fly in time to be at the meeting at 1:00 that same day. Whoa, I will never do that again. So I've done it on the front end. I never do it on the other end. It's like, oh, I'm going to be home Sunday night, so Monday morning I'll hit the ground right. No. So I need to add a travel day on the other end, it's a recuperation day, or rejuvenation day, reset day, right?
A reset day. I love that. A reset day.
Yeah.
So will you tell the audience, how they can find out more about you?
Absolutely. I'm in the process of revamping my website. Thank you, marketing team. But I can be found at Deborah LeeAnn.com, and that's DeborahLeeAnn.com. I also have a site that's more geared towards the leadership development, that's at Authentic Leadership Consulting. But it's look for a new podcast I've got coming out this January that's all about authenticity and showing up as a woman, in our wholeness. I haven't figured out a title yet. It's something like Bringing Your Whole Self to Work. I don't know yet. But the other way would be just to reach out and let's connect on LinkedIn. And I love to do like a 20-minute consult with people sometimes, just to kind of help them get some clarity. And that I do Zoom calls all the time to do that with people. So that's how you can reach me.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for being here today, and for sharing your wisdom and your presence, because you are such a dear. So I hope to have you back on the show soon.
That'd be lovely. And I appreciate all that you do, Kathy. We need you. Us business owners really need you. So thank you for everything. And it was my pleasure to be here. And I hope that this was in some way provides a bit of value to anyone who listens. So
thank you.